Welcome back to the channel. This is number 10, Project Snow Beast. And if you've been following it since the beginning, this is the 47 snowblower that we're rebuilding to go on the tractor. And that coupler, when I first got the machine, broke off the plastic, I guess, grab coupler, whatever, that goes around the outside of the thing. Here's the whole kit. To buy the whole PTO shaft is ridiculously expensive. The new one comes with the spring. It's got the new plastic coupler shell, or maybe this one's metal. It felt a little better than what I had on there anyway. And it's got the washer and the big ring and all the balls that are supposed to go in there. There's 4 that are going to go on the back side and 2 for the PTO itself, or well, I don't know which activate which, but basically four little ones, 2 big ones. You can see the different sizes there, so it's easy to tell. The 2 big ones and the smaller ones, there's 4 of those in there. Let's get all this stuff cleaned out. So between me working on it, tipping it back and forth and everything got full of, well, not full of dirt, but there's plenty of dirt to be had. This is the part that would go over the mill PTO shaft that's coming from the tractor front. We got the ring. That one's a little deformed. And because I didn't get mine in a complete state, you can see the spring has already been pulled out of there. I'm not sure how to get this apart because it's rusty, it's corroded, and has been sitting. All bad things. And I don't remember if that was me beating on that with the hammer, but there's some beating marks there amongst plenty of corrosion on the one side where it probably was sitting with salt on it for a long extended period of time and has whittled it down quite a ways. Supposed to just slide right back, but because of the amount of corrosion that's on mine, I don't think that's going to happen. So here I got the idea maybe those balls are holding it up. I've just never worked on this style quick automatic coupler before, so a little bit of a learning curve, but yeah, look at that corrosion on that coupler half. No wonder why it was all seized up. So I've located the big balls. They're the ones you can see right just inside it, about halfway through that coupling on the inside. And the back ones obviously are against the back yoke, I guess you call it. Somehow these, whatever little bit of grease they were installed with, had lasted through the years, and the balls themselves were not stuck, which I can't even imagine how they couldn't be, the way this whole machine was so rusty. trying to push them out the bottom there. They're rusty, but they're not stuck. So I'm just looking at the instructions. I'll have a screenshot of the whole instructions somewhere within the video. So if you want to follow along, this yoke assembly is not made by John Deere. You can see the name on there, Weasler. That's also the name on the instructions, and that came with the original equipment parts on the bag. So there, I realized I just wasn't forcing it enough, and there's just all this dry rust in there. Pull those big balls out of there. Let's speed this up a little so we don't all fall asleep here. Just standard wire wheel. I'm noticing there that ring has been hammered on a little bit. Somebody was hammering on the end of that shaft, and that ring groove has been somewhat smushed. So that's going to need a little work. Here I'm trying to figure out how to get those splines to collapse back in and make that slide again. Not trying to hit on it too hard because we are hitting against the bearings on the lower yoke and also the bearing that goes into that bracket on its way to the back chain pulley. So we don't want to hammer too terribly tough. Here I decided, how am I going to get that groove to come back? I originally had thought about a cutoff wheel, real thin cutoff wheel. Even that seemed to be a little too much. So I got this oscillating tool. You can get different blades. Some are for metal, some are for wood. And the one I've got here is quite dull, so it's not cutting quickly. But if you're able to get that tool held in place well enough, it works perfectly. Just enough material removal to get that ring to sit down where it needs to go without grinding a big divot somewhere. Just trying to make sure I'm not creating a burr at the end of the cut or anything that it's going to sit up on, but it actually worked better than I thought. It's just a little hard to hold it. You can rotate those blades in any position on the tool. I've got it sticking off the end there, but you might have more control if you put it like at a 90. So I'm just going to spend a little time working on. I was showing that we don't want to be hitting because we're hitting on all those bearings that are in those U-joints, and I do not intend on replacing those. So if I'm giving it a shock load endwise, that's a quite abnormal motion, and they're not made for that. So I'm kind of using not full swings and not big hammers, because I'm figuring this thing is going to knock loose and suddenly we're going to be in business. That turns out not to be the case. Maybe we'll try some heat. Alright, here we go. I got just a map torch, map propane. They used to just call them map. Just trying to give it some heat. There's nothing really down there that's going to be harmed. It's all steel. I just wouldn't want to get the U-joints too hot, but we're way away from that. I got this well sped up, so don't worry. I gave it plenty of heat. I'm just trying to give it a quick shock, but as you can see, I got some garbage falling out the tube bottom there, because that's open. The bottom of that tube is open, so I mean some stuff's falling out, some crusty stuff, but it just will not let go. Trying to go up. Hit it on the sides, try to create some shock within that metal. Just seemed to me like this was going to be the best going from the end, but of course you're hammering on one side of the yoke, so you're not getting a real straight drive on it. And not surprisingly, without success. Over here, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with those holes I see there. And what I find is there's a screw that needs an Allen wrench, a socket head screw, socket head? Yeah, I guess so. With a point on it that goes through the outer shaft and then will bite down on the inner shaft. Now, I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be just for preventing removal of it fully, like it had a collar on the end, or if that was actually just to lock it down in a fixed position, and that's how you're supposed to run these. There's that pointed head screw that came out of there. Now, it had a hole on the other side too, which I suspect would have been for a Zerk grease fitting, which either wasn't ever there or is long gone. So for now, I just put that back in. It looks like it bites down on the shaft, so I don't think this thing needs to move. I could be wrong. I may find out later we have to get this moving, but in order to not damage and hammer down on all those bearings and everything, there's really no good, or break the yoke off, there's really no good way to get this at this point on the machine. So I may just remove that. It has to come off anyway, because I will be taking it off to replace the bearings on the bolts. It's missing 2 out of the 3 bolts that mount that bearing flange, that silvery gold bearing flange that goes down to the base there. Here I'm using Lucas Red and Tacky grease, number 2 grease, real good sticky stuff. I got a link in the description. Look at that stick. It's like a number 2 general purpose grease, really good stuff. I love that. And then I'm going to follow the instructions. You take the large balls and you put those where the collar goes over, and the grease is going to help you hold them, and it's also going to lubricate them. And then you got 4 small balls that come all in the kit, and the grease helps you stick them in place, and yeah, it works great. The procedure works as designed. Big washer, then the spring, okay, all the balls are in. This goes this way. Yeah, I thought it went the other way originally. I'm supposed to push over this till it locks. Let's get this lined up. And that is a very precision fit. Nope. I must have a burr on the end of mine where that hammer mark was. Nope, no burr. I just had, it was a little crooked. I noticed it was off center a little bit. So now that part works. Kind of. Is that supposed to come all the way back? Yeah, how am I ever going to get my ring on? Of course it does. It's not all the way locked in. There it goes. Now, this ring. Nice. Works great. All right. We got ourselves a rebuilt PTO end.